Thinking about launching a podcast but overwhelmed by all the moving parts? At TurnKey Podcast Productions, we take the hassle out of podcasting so you can focus on the talk, not the tech. From concept to launch, guest booking to post-production, we handle everything. Need a strategy to grow your show and turn guests into clients? Yep, we do that too. DIY or done for you, we've got the solution that fits. Whether you're just getting started or ready to scale, TurnKey is your behind-the-scenes podcast team. TurnKey Podcast Productions. Your voice, your message, fully produced. Learn more at turnkeypodcast.com/contact. That's turnkeypodcast.com/contact.
Here's what you can look forward to on this episode of The Nice Guys on Business.
If you're running into the same problem multiple times. So if your email breaks once, that's unfortunate, but we fix it, right? Mm-hmm. If the email has broken 4 times in the week and every time it's the same solution or something adjacent, there's a deeper underlying problem there. And we're just kind of throwing Band-Aids on it, but the water keeps leaking through the cracks. And that's the kind of small things that, while most business owners might not pay too much time to it, if a fix only takes 15 minutes each, that adds up to real time, real measurable impact on what they're trying to do. Instead of focusing on getting that new sale or landing that big contract, they've now designated an hour in that last situation, 15 times 4, just while the email wasn't sent in. And it kind of stacks and stacks and stacks.
Well, let's say this Twinkie represents the normal amount of psychokinetic energy in the New York area. Based on this morning's sample, it would be a Twinkie 35 feet long, weighing approximately the same as the Nice Guys on Business. Go from where you are now to where you could be. Get expert tips to grow your business, to be more productive and more efficient, whether you're trying to build influence, grow your community, or make it rain. Best-selling author of Nice Guys Finish First, Doug Sandler, can lead the way. The Nice Guys on Business is produced by TurnKey Podcast Productions. Now, here's your host, Doug Sandler.
All right, welcome back to the podcast, Nice Guy Community. Today on the Nice Guys, we've got a pro who makes sure your business doesn't fall apart the moment your tech decides to take a coffee break. As CEO of XSolutions, Michael Layland leads a team that keeps small and mid-sized businesses secure, supported, and actually up and running without the usual IT headaches. Known for proactive service and real human support, yes, they actually answer the phone. His approach is all about presenting problems and preventing problems before they cost you time and money. Today, we promise no tech jargon, because I don't know any, unless you start it. Michael, welcome to the Nice Guys.
Doug, thanks so much for having me here. And yeah, we'll keep the tech jargon to a close to 0 number for your audience out there. Nobody wants to be listening to a bunch of code language.
Well, you know, and nowadays with ChatGPT, we don't even need to know code anymore anyway. Or maybe we do. At least I don't need to know code at my level. So talk to me about IT. What does my entrepreneurial audience need to know from a 35,000 foot approach about IT, other than the fact that when you call somebody, when you have an IT problem, you want to be able to speak to a human being or get a human response? So talk to me about that.
Well, you definitely do want a human response, and it's getting rarer. You brought up AI, and we'll probably dive a little bit into that at some point as well. But from a technical side, what entrepreneurs need to know is that IT, it feels like this black box. I mean, I've met so many entrepreneurs where they have a whole bunch of wires and cables and machines blinking in a closet somewhere, and nobody knows what it does. And if you breathe on it wrong, the website goes down. And that gets you by. But to scale and grow your firm, which I know most entrepreneurs are looking to do, you need to treat it more with a distinct plan of where you want to take it, because IT, while maybe not glamorous and fun, can be an engine to help grow the business if it's done smartly. It's about planning and implementing technologies that are right for the field you're in, and then scaling it with your business to maximize your message and reach.
Okay. So can I break that down for just a moment? Because I want to explain this to an entrepreneurial community and really to me, because I'm not 100% sure where IT fits into our world other than knowing, oh, we're using Monday.com for a project management software, and we use all of these technologies in editing and producing and distributing, and each thing has its own specific platform. At what point do you need a manager to manage every one of those platforms as opposed to just somebody that on our team that's an expert at monday.com or somebody that's an expert in our hosting resources or distribution platform? When do you need to have somebody that knows everything about what you got going on?
Well, that's actually a really good question. The answer is that it scales as you scale, right? So the solo entrepreneur, they need someone who's got their back, but they don't necessarily need to hire someone in, right? So they need someone they can call and text and say, hey, Mike, hey, Doug, I got this thing going on. What does this mean? What's happening here?
Right.
Get that advice. The shop that's starting to grow a little bit, maybe they have 5, 6 people. They're maybe working in an auto mechanic shop or they're doing car detailing or whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
They might start wanting to look at someone who can oversee it. You might not need like a full managed IT shop to do that. You don't have to spend tens of thousands of dollars. But there are companies in the middle. In IT land, we call them break fix companies, where they know your stack, they know what's going on. You call them when something's broken and they fix it. So that's a good spot for them. But when you start hitting 10, 11, 12 and beyond people, the complexity starts to develop and it starts to get time intensive, Doug. So, I mean, you might have a bunch of people on your team who specialize in all these different areas and they can figure it out, but their time and would be better utilized producing and focusing on the things that they do best, helping grow the business, working on the business, not so much in the business. And that's where you typically see someone like me show up, but that's neither here nor there, and essentially guiding the business strategy. And how do these things talk to each other? Is there a way to streamline the efficiency? Can we help maximize whatever you're doing at that time? Are you paying for a bunch of stuff you don't need? That's a big one. Mm-hmm. A lot of people have subscription crawl where, you have like 15 different services and then you have 20 different services. And advice would be, if that might be you, I highly encourage you out there to take a look at your credit card statement, because I've caught myself with like 15 different services. It just gets wet.
Yeah, and I think about when we originally got started, one of the biggest areas that we didn't really have an expertise but needed help was stuff like our website. So we call Nicole, and Nicole's been our website person for a very long time. The rest of the IT we handle internally, and I'm not saying that that's the right way to do it, but my partner is very good at systems and processes, so he manages the monday.com. But the challenge gets to be, okay, well, how do we know who's supposed to handle what? And how do we allow IT to help our business grow rather than it being an anchor when we have a problem? Like if our security certificate goes down on our website, our website is down, and that's never good. You don't want your website being down, especially if it's our only resource that we use when somebody is interested in hiring us to bring us in. A day down with that is certainly not good. So what are some of those initial questions that somebody should be asking you, or maybe what questions do you ask them to determine, is it time to bring in a company like XSolutions to help them resolve any IT issues overall?
Yeah, that's very interesting. It is a little dynamic, but I'll give you some generalizations here. And by no means am I saying everyone out here should call us. You should do what's best for your business, of course. But that usually is at least finding the single source of truth of what's holding you back, right? So there are ways of doing that. So if you have team members on your team who are spending more than 10, 20 hours a week working on IT related things, and their job was not hired to be an IT person,
Right.
you might have a bit of a scope creep going on there. And I
Right.
know all of us entrepreneurs, we love wearing multiple hats. We'll stay up 24 hours a day, get absolutely no sleep, and somehow keep going. But you should be able to reclaim a little bit of that time. And at least if you're not going to put it into sleep, put it into an area of the business that needs some TLC.
Understood.
Right? So if you're looking and you have someone with 10 or 20 more hours and they're not a dedicated IT rep, that's a big one. If you're running into the same problem multiple times, so if your email breaks once, that's unfortunate, but we fix it, right?
Mm-hmm.
If the email has broken 4 times in the week and every time it's the same solution or something adjacent,
Mm-hmm.
there's a deeper underlying problem there, and we're just kind of throwing band-aids on it, but the water keeps leaking through the cracks. And that's the kind of small things that, while most business owners might not pay too much time to it, if a fix only takes 15 minutes each, that adds up to real time, real measurable impact on what they're trying to do. Instead of focusing on getting that new sale or landing that big contract, they've now designated an hour in that last situation, 15 times 4, just while the email wasn't sent in. And it kind of stacks and stacks and stacks.
So help me for a second. So the scope of work that a company like XSolutions does, or any other IT company, and I know that there's probably a variety of them that are out there. Are you calling them with, if anything is tech related, you're the go-to resource within an organization to help resolve a tech issue? For example, we use Zapier. Zapier is a tool that we use when we don't have an integration tool. So that is the integration tool that allows two apps to communicate with each other. For those in our community that might not know this, that's what we use it for. So when you booked your appointment with Acuity, which is the scheduling program that I use, there is not an integration between Acuity and Monday.com. But I only want to go to my project management software. I don't want to go to a third resource like a Google Drive to find a document. I'd rather it automatically land in Monday.com. Are you the company that we would go to when we say, hey, we need a solution that connects Acuity to Monday.com, and we don't want to spend our resources doing it? We'd rather have somebody that knows how to do it, probably can do it faster, which ultimately means, even though we're having additional expense, probably also means cheaper. Is that the type of stuff that you guys do, or am I thinking about it too simple a means?
No, you're thinking about it 100% right. So first of all, what you originally said is right as well. You can throw a rock and hit an IT company. There are a million of them out there. We probably have 5 on the block here. So what that means to a business owner who's listening to this right now is you have to do your due diligence. Mm-hmm. Not every IT company is the same IT company. I've come across some amazing folks who work in IT, and I've come across some less than amazing folks who work in IT. And a good partner is one that feels like a member of your team. They might be in a different office, but you can reach out to them, ask strategy questions like you just did with Zapier and Acuity, and get the answers or have it done for you or whatever it needs to be. But there are a lot of different types of partners out there. So, you got to be careful. And for the solo entrepreneur, those are the types of people who, and I love that you brought up Zapier. I love Zapier, who can really maximize a lot of what they're doing with something like Zapier, where things aren't talking to each other.
Right.
It's not super complicated, depending on what you're doing, to figure out. And you can kind of integrate various systems. So very cool way that you guys are doing it. And I would encourage anyone out there, I make nothing off Zapier, but I would encourage anyone out there who hasn't heard of Zapier and might want to be trying to test their efficiencies to take a look.
All right, cool. So there is also a difference. Let's differentiate this just so our community knows this. There's a difference between somebody that's in the world of IT and somebody that's in cybersecurity. So if you're listening to this thinking, well, how does that help me keep my systems safe? Well, what we've talked about so far isn't necessarily the angle that we're taking in keeping your systems safe. So at what point does XSolutions do or doesn't get involved in helping your clients or people that are listening to the show, help them just secure the systems that they have in place right now. Is that something that you guys do too?
It's the first step in any good IT partner relationship. It's foundational to have cybersecurity set up. So, and this is actually one of the areas where I think a lot of people listening will probably get the most value from this conversation, to be honest with you. This and maybe AI. So cybersecurity, a lot of people, even tech companies, they tack it on as an afterthought. You throw antivirus on there, what could go wrong? I signed up for a phishing training on the internet. Good enough. To the wind, the rest of it goes. And unfortunately, especially in the environment we're in today, that's just not going to cut it. So when I talk to small business owners, what I hear a lot of is people say, I'm too small. They don't want to target me. They want CVS. They want Walgreens. Mm-hmm. Well, they would love Walgreens or CVS. But Walgreens and CVS spends millions and millions and millions of dollars on cybersecurity. Mm-hmm. So that's usually out of reach for bad actors. They actually prefer the small shops. And here's a surprising statistic, Doug. The majority of, I think it's like 60% of small businesses that get hit with a ransomware or cyber incident, they close within 6 months of that happening. So the business just goes up in smoke.
Right.
You can't have that. So anyone who's listening out there right now, you're probably thinking, I don't have a few $100 million to spend on cybersecurity, and neither do I. No, not many people do. But you don't need a few $100 million to spend on cybersecurity. You just need the right pieces. So if you have notepads out there and you're writing this down, what I would be looking into if I was you is a solution called MDR, Managed Detection and Response. Mm-hmm. It's like an antivirus on steroids. It uses a combination of AI and real world data sending back to a center full of people like me who analyze traffic and make sure things are on the up and up. So you got to have that. But it's not that expensive. People can look it up. They can find it. They can buy it themselves. It's a great solution, and it will keep your computers way safer. But Doug, you might know this actually. So I ask as a question to you. Do you know how most cyber attacks start?
I'm going to go by people clicking on an email that has a link in it. That would be my guess.
You are 100% correct. Vast majority are people clicking either accidentally or it seems legitimate, or this one happens a lot as well. One of your vendors or partners gets compromised and a hacker then starts using their legitimate email to send you cybersecurity problems.
Oh, that happens all the time with me. And sometimes I get hey, a request for proposal from a company that I really don't know. And it says, click the link to fill out the bid notice. I'm like, I don't even know who that. So first thing I do is I look up their email to see if I recognize that email address. I do a search in my Gmail account. And then I right click on the link and I see what the link URL is. If it's a URL that I don't know or don't recognize, there is no way. Or if I'm BCC'd on something that seems a little suspicious, I also don't click on that. And I'm sure that those are just some minor things that I'm doing. There's probably things that I'm doing that aren't correct, but I try my best to really filter out any of those opportunities for a phishing scheme or somebody that is looking for me to click a link to get involved, to try my best not to.
Well, you're already doing a lot of good stuff there by hovering the link, checking it out, not just blindly clicking on things. And a lot of what I hear from other business owners is sometimes they do what you're doing, most of the time they don't.
Right.
But they also say, well, my people are really good. They would never fall for a phishing scam. And I'm sure your people are very good. Most people have good intentions and they're working their hardest to make the business grow. Most people. But accidents happen. So when it comes to phishing and protection, there are also very cheap systems out there that help filter these. They plug directly into Microsoft or Google or whatever you're using to help minimize the chance of these attacks. And then the last thing I'll say on this, And nobody wants to ever do this when I say it, Doug, for full transparency. Everyone's always like, I'm not doing that. But it's training. It is training. If you and your team aren't paying attention frequently to what's happening in the world, then the chance just kind of creeps up over time that something will slip through the cracks. I'm not saying spend 30 hours a month training the team, but like 5-10 minutes a week with a quick little hey.
It seems like awareness is probably the most, and just don't let your guard down as best you can when you're in unfamiliar sites, or when you're looking at an unfamiliar email. I would think, like you said earlier, is the number one way that somebody has access to your computer. We don't realize how vulnerable we are just by clicking a link, that it actually could put something into your system that is just, and I can't say that I'm not guilty of it in some things, but most of the time I try to be very diligent. So I think you're right. I think just having awareness is the way to go.
It 100% is. And I'll actually give you a little preview. This isn't something we have right now, but it is something I'm going to offer to people. And I said I wouldn't sell anything. I'm not selling anything. This is free. I like giving away free things. We are going to be doing free annual trainings for people for this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So, if someone's listening right now, I'm sorry, it doesn't exist yet. But in the future, in the near future, there'll be some annual training out there. But even if you don't do that, take 5 minutes out of your monthly meeting and just bring awareness to your team. Say, hey, we just saw this in the news.
So, Michael, you mentioned something a little bit earlier, and I want to talk about this for just a moment before we share your website and some other information and wrap on the interview. But I want to talk about AI for just a second, because AI has made technology so much more accessible to people that never knew how to do things, understood how to build their own websites, understood all of the ins and outs of everything technology related. How has AI changed your field and your scope?
AI is so impressive, but scary at the same time. There's a lot of people out there that are afraid AI is going to take their jobs, and that's a real concern, especially for some industries. And then there's other people out there who use AI every single day, right? Mm-hmm. So from the tech side, it's about implementing it smartly and securely. What a lot of people don't know, depending on the AI you may or may not be using, is if you're on those free tiers of AI, chances are it's training on your data. Mm-hmm. And what that means is you can put in, you shouldn't do this, but let's say you put in a bunch of information, it has your customers' names in it and things like that. Well, because it's being trained on that, if one of your competitors goes over to AI and they type in, hey, I'm looking at the Nice Guys on Business podcast, and what are their financials? If you put the financials into that free one, then out spits your financials like Google, but in an AI kind of format. And that's gotten a lot of people in trouble. It's gotten some big businesses in trouble as well. There's been some blueprints that shouldn't have been in AI that engineers paced over. So look, AI, it's impressive. It's growing. It talks like it 100% knows what it's talking about. But it likes to lie.
Yeah. It's sometimes it's not right. I mean, there's many times that I have put in and by the way, if anybody goes through my data at ChatGPT, they'll see that they have an overwhelming amount of information about old Ford pickup trucks, Ford Mustangs, and how to smoke meats. Other than that, I'm not sure how much I've given away. I might have put, I hope I didn't put a tax return in there, but I may have put that in there at one point, asking them questions about that. But yeah, I could see that could be definitely an area that could be leaving you vulnerable, if you're putting that much information in ChatGPT.
Yeah, it's the levels, it's the plans, it's the specific policies. And then if you're going to use AI and you've reviewed all those things and you're pretty confident in what you're doing, it then becomes, and I tell my partners this all the time, treat AI like the best intern you've ever hired. Mm-hmm. It works 24 hours a day. It's ready to do job. It's enthusiastic and confident. But if you don't read every single thing that it puts out, chances are you're going to be spewing nonsense into the world, and eventually someone will call you on it and be like, what is this? This is blatantly not true. And you don't want that for your reputation or business.
Well, Michael, were you the guy that was in like high school or college, and you were always like dismantling computers or trying to figure out the behind the scenes, or at the C prompt you're doing in that kind of stuff? Because when did you realize that this was like your gift? Because a lot of what you do for a living is stuff that most people don't even think about and don't even want to think about because it's all the behind the scenes stuff that's going on.
Okay, I'll tell this story. So I was 11 or 12 when this started, and it started because my parents had a nice desktop computer in our office, all fancy, beautiful, and they went away, and I thought it was my prime opportunity to figure out how it works. So I took it apart. Fortunately, at 11 years old, I just couldn't quite get it back together at that point in my career. So I heard about that for a while. That was a rough one.
Yeah, that was good.
But it spurred like a little bit of interest. So give it another 3 months, I could put it back together. And then I got really lucky. I had a friend whose parents owned an ad agency. And this was unfortunate for them, but their business went through a disaster. It was hit by a big storm at the time, and it wiped out all their servers, their databases, everything. So they were out of luck. It was over for them. And I don't know how this landed in my lap per se, but I was tasked with rebuilding the databases. I was probably 12 and a half at that time. And, for a 12 and a half year old kid, $500 a week, a lot of money. That was a lot of money for a 12 and a half year old kid. I was really excited about that. And that's kind of what got me really passionate more about helping business owners recover, have appropriate strategies. And I've just done it ever since.
Wow. Well, that's a good story. And I appreciate you sharing that with us. So it really is one of your passions that you've had since being a young kid. So that's always good when you have that. For me, I always thought that the relationship build and selling and just being involved with people, that was always going to be my thing. But I love doing stuff on computers. I just don't like doing any of the behind the scenes stuff at all, which is why having a Mac is really much better solution for me than a lot of the PCs that are out there.
Well, you know what they say, Doug.
Yeah.
If you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. So hopefully all the entrepreneurs out there have picked something that they're super passionate about.
Yep.
And then it just becomes fun.
Totally. And if you're someone in our community that is not passionate about IT or anything that's related to IT, any of the behind the scenes technologies, please get in touch with Michael at XSolutions. And we'll make sure we put a link in the show notes. Michael, thank you for sharing your inspiration and your message with our community. Thanks for being here.
Doug, thank you so much for having me. And to the entrepreneurs out there, keep hustling, keep the grind going, and make your dreams come true.
Excellent. You had the final word, and those were good ones. Nice Guy community, never underestimate the power of nice. Again, special thanks to Michael. All of his information, including access to XSolutions, right there in the show notes. Steve O'Brien, go ahead and take us out of here.
For the Nice Guys on Business, I'm Steve O'Brien. Seriously, it'll only hurt for a minute. And don't worry, I'll be fine.